There's a version of you that no one has ever met. Not your family, not your friends, not even the person you see in the mirror every morning. That version is waiting, and it's burning. Mira walked through the city like a shadow. 24 years old, talented, full of ideas that never left her notebook. She worked at a bookstore, smiled politely at customers, and went home to an apartment where her paintings leaned against the wall, facing away. She told herself she wasn't ready, that maybe next year she'd share her work, that maybe someday she'd speak up in conversations instead of nodding along. But the truth was simpler and more painful. She was terrified of being seen. Every morning, she'd stand in front of her closet and choose the most invisible outfit. Beige, gray, nothing that would make anyone look twice. She'd practiced this her whole life. In school, she never raised her hand, even when she knew the answer. At family dinners, she let her louder cousins take up all the space. And when someone complimented her, she'd deflect so fast, it was like catching fire and immediately dousing it with water. She had learned that being small kept you safe, that dimming your light meant no one could blow it out. One Tuesday afternoon, on her usual walk home, Mira noticed an old man sitting on the sidewalk with chalk pastels scattered around him. He wasn't asking for money. He was drawing. The concrete beneath him had transformed into a galaxy of colors, swirling portraits of strangers, faces full of emotion she could almost hear. She stopped. Something about his work made her chest tighten. He looked up. His eyes were sharp, kind, ancient. "You're an artist," he said. Not a question, a fact. Mira's first instinct was to deny it, to laugh it off. But something in his gaze held her in place. I draw sometimes," she whispered. "No," he said, shaking his head slowly. "You don't draw sometimes, you burn with it. I can see it." She felt exposed, like he'd reached into her chest and found the things she'd spent years burying. She should have walked away, but instead she sat down. His name was Vincent. He'd been a street artist for 30 years, painting the world's pavements because, as he put it, art shouldn't be locked behind gallery walls. It should live where people walk, where they can't ignore it. "Why do you hide?" he asked her one day, after she'd started visiting him regularly. Mira stared at the chalk in her hands. She'd been helping him fill in the colors of a phoenix he was drawing. Because when you show people who you really are, they can reject you. And that rejection isn't just about what you made. It feels like it's about who you are. Vincent nodded. He didn't rush to correct her. He just listened. Then he drew something in the corner of the pavement. A candle. Tiny. Flickering. "You think your fire will burn others, so you keep it small," he said. "But a hidden flame doesn't protect anyone. It just dies slowly. And the world gets a little darker." She wanted to argue, to explain all the times she'd been laughed at, dismissed, told she was too much or not enough. But the words caught in her throat. Over the next few weeks, Vincent gave her a challenge. Every time she visited, she had to draw something on the pavement with him. Something true. At first, her hands shook. She drew simple things. A bird. A flower. Safe images that meant nothing. But Vincent pushed her. Gently. Relentlessly. "Draw what you're afraid of," he said one evening as the sun melted into orange. Mira hesitated. Then she began. Her chalk moved faster, bolder. She drew a girl standing in the center of a crowd, flames rising from her hands. The people around her weren't running. They were watching. Some were smiling. Some were crying. But they were all seeing her. When she finished, her heart was pounding. "That's it," Vincent whispered. "That's the fire." But knowing it existed and letting it out were two different things. Mira still went home to her quiet apartment, still wore her invisible clothes, still kept her paintings turned toward the wall, until one night she got a message. The bookstore was hosting a local artist showcase. They wanted employees to submit work. It was optional, low stakes, but to Mira, it felt like standing naked in front of 1,000 strangers. She stared at her paintings. They were good. She knew they were good. But good wasn't the problem. The problem was that they were hers. Raw, honest, full of the feelings she never said out loud. She thought about Vincent, about the phoenix he'd drawn, about the way he created beauty in the most temporary, vulnerable places, knowing it would wash away with the next rain. She submitted 3 paintings. The night of the showcase, Mira almost didn't go. She stood outside the bookstore, hands trembling, every instinct screaming at her to turn around. But then she remembered something Vincent had told her. The fire you hide doesn't just hurt you. It hurts everyone who needed your light. She walked in. Her paintings were hung on the back wall. Small compared to others, but there. Visible. Real. She stood in the corner, trying to blend in, but people kept stopping in front of her work. A woman wiped her eyes. A man stood there for 5 full minutes, just staring, and then someone approached her. A stranger. "Did you paint these?" Mira's throat was dry. She nodded. "They're stunning. They made me feel something I didn't know I needed to feel." That sentence cracked something open inside her. Not applause, not praise, just connection. Her art had reached someone. Her hidden fire had given warmth to a stranger. She thought about all the years she'd spent making herself smaller, quieter, less. And for what? To avoid this terrifying, beautiful moment of being truly seen. The next day, she went to find Vincent, but his usual spot was empty. The phoenix he'd drawn was still there, fading but recognizable. And next to it, in fresh chalk, were words clearly meant for her. "The world doesn't need another shadow. It needs your fire. Let it burn." She never saw him again, but she didn't need to. He'd already given her what she came for. Mira didn't become famous overnight. She didn't quit her job or move to a big city, but she stopped hiding. She started sharing her work online. She wore colors that made her feel alive. She spoke up in conversations, even when her voice shook. And slowly, the version of herself she'd kept locked away began to breathe. Because here's the truth. The fire inside you isn't dangerous. It's not something to fear or suppress. It's the most honest part of who you are. And yes, not everyone will understand it. Some will look away. But others, the ones who need it most, will feel its warmth and finally permission to light their own. You were never meant to be small. You were meant to burn. If this story stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more stories that dig into the uncomfortable, beautiful truth of being human. And leave a comment. Tell me about the fire you've been hiding. It's time to let it out.